Welcome to When We Talk podcast, a place where we talk about everything from relationships, marriage, being single, conflict in marriages, conflict in relationships. We talk about it all. This episode is hosted by Kenneth Bonner and Reggie Smith. Welcome again to When We Talk. I am Kenneth Bonner.
And I'm Reggie Smith.
Today's show is a very interesting topic. It's about integrity in relationships.
Very, very interesting topic that we'll be discussing on today. Over the last several days, I've had a number of people come up to me with the same topic, and it was talking about integrity in relationships. And what I mean by that is that what do you bring to the table and when do you bring it to the table, and putting everything on the table.
Okay. So I can see already that this is going to be a very interesting show. So let's start off by me asking you a question, Reggie. What is integrity? Can you give us a definition?
Well, Webster's dictionary states that integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles and moral uprightness. Now, a lot of people get integrity and character confused, and even though they do go hand in hand, character is the mental and moral qualities distinctive in an individual, while again, I'm going to say it again, the quality of being honest. The quality of being honest is what integrity is, and this is what we'll be discussing on today.
Well, I feel like there's a lot of people who partner with folks and they start dating in the beginning and they're not quite honest up front. There could be a number of reasons why they're not honest. Maybe they don't want to say everything about themselves up front, or maybe they have situations that they want to take to their grave. Regardless of what the scenario may be, I think that integrity is important in relationships. Now, if you have something that could be detrimental to your relationship later, I definitely do think you need to communicate that in the beginning of a relationship when you see things starting to get serious.
Agreed. I also believe that a lot of times entering into relationships, we all carry our own forms of insecurities, no matter what they may be. We all have something that we're insecure about. And sometimes a lot of that is based around fear. Sometimes a lot of that is based around things that has happened in our past. And upon the onset of a relationship, those are the things that sometimes we want to kind of conceal and kind of hide. But it's very important that we lose in sight that there needs to be some things that needs to be discussed early on before we start to move forward into the throes of the relationship. So I'm going to ask you, Kenneth, how long do you think that a person should wait before they start sharing certain things about themselves as they enter into a relationship? Would you say a couple of weeks, a month, a couple of months, a couple of dates? What's your take?
I think that time is important, but at the same time, I think that you have to go off of how serious or what level the relationship is on. And what I mean by that is, if you just enter into a relationship, it might not be the best time to just spill all your beans or all of your business to the person that you're in a relationship with. I mean, you'll literally run people away doing that. And that's a bad habit where I think some people are frustrated with telling their story. And so they say, look, let me just get it out up front, and so I don't have to deal with this later. But I honestly feel like you need to see where the relationship is going first and not just jump right in and tell everything. And then too, if the relationship is getting serious and deep, then you don't want to wait until somebody puts a ring on your finger or you get engaged to somebody or even marriage to tell something that you should have told them up front. Now you're several years into the relationship and these things are coming up and they're causing issues.
So let's talk about that. And that was one of the main things that came to me through these lists of several people. The thing is that now we have decided to go further into this relationship. And now we're 2-3 years in. We've established ourselves. We've merged our finances together. We have committed ourselves. We have changed so many things about ourselves. Now we have kids. We're married and we're moving in this relationship. Now all of a sudden you get blindsided. So the question now comes up is, what do? Had you known all of this information, would you have gotten married? Would you have proceeded further in this relationship? So now we're vested. All right. We've built a house and we're happy. And now you hit me with this vital piece of information. The question is, where do we go now? What do we do? So that's my question to you, Kenneth. What do you do?
So, first of all, I feel like we, again, really need to be careful in how we partner, who we partner with. When you're in the point of a relationship and you're at this level of you've done all the things that you mentioned, and now we're like, okay, what do we do? I think that it's going to definitely take some counseling. It's going to take some prayer. And it's really going to take you being honest, because now that you've held these things back from your mate, you've literally broken their trust. And now that trust is broken, what else are you keeping from me? What else don't I know about? What else are you hiding? What else didn't you tell me in the beginning? So now that you have all these issues, it's like, okay, can I really trust you? And I think that's one of the things that outside of communication that leads to divorce, because being honest up front is a part of communication. And so if we're at this place now to where all of a sudden all these things are happening, I need to know facts now. I need to know every single detail, and I don't need you to leave anything out, so that we can figure out how we're going to resolve this issue, and then I can decide if I want to stay. Now, I'm not a supporter in divorce, but I do believe that some situations are so detrimental that it's unavoidable.
Exactly. And the question now becomes, okay, what are my next step? Because there are some things that if you chose to conceal that we can probably work around. But there are some things that once you hit me with it and I delve into how deep this thing is, now I'm very upset, because now it's like, I've been in the military, and the one thing you want to do before you enter into battle is to make sure that you have all your gear on.
Right.
The Bible talks about you having on the full armor of God. So when you're entering into this relationship, you're thinking you're entering into this relationship with all your armor on, meaning that you have everything to equip you so you can move forward in this relationship, only to find out that you've been in this relationship and you don't have your full armor on. Now, this is where your character comes up. Now, this is where your character comes into question, because now you did not give me the opportunity to make a decision on whether or not I wanted to stay in this relationship, whether this was something that was conducive to me. So now we have an issue. And what happens is that one thing that you don't want to happen in your relationship is that you never want to lose your captive audience. You never want to lose the flavor and everything that's going on in a relationship, because now once you've hit me with this thing, now not only can I not trust you, now anger has set in, resentment has set in, pain has set in, confusion has set in, and now we have some issues. And so now this person, even though they love you, we have kids, we have moved forward in this relationship. Now I'm confused. So now we are spending a lot of time trying to dig ourselves out of this hole. And now I'm almost forced to make a decision that I never wanted to make in the beginning, which is very, very hard. So let me ask you this, Kenneth. Give me some things, and I'll give you my 2 cents as well. As what are some things that you think should be discussed at the onset of a relationship? So therefore, I can make a choice to whether, I don't think that I can deal with that, or that's not too bad, we can work around it. Give me your examples, Kenneth.
Okay, so before I dive into that, I do want to touch on something really quick. Along with people holding things back, not only have I gotten angry and I'm bitter, but I've also lost respect for you.
There you go.
And that's one thing that if a man loses, if he loses the respect of his mate, then you can pretty much almost hang the relationship up.
Basically. Because
that opens the door for nothing but devastation to happen.
Absolutely.
Things to be discussed up front. I feel like if you had a situation to where you have some kind of criminal charges or something that could come up later, or if you were accused of molestation, or if you were accused of rape, or accused of murder, or financial things, things that, hey, if you got child support you're paying, or if you in some kind of financial situation to where people are garnishing your checks, if you're in trouble with the IRS, I feel like you have to communicate these things, because if you don't, then you're setting your partner up or your relationship up to fail. Now, if you don't communicate this stuff to me up front, and I'm not talking about day 1, day 2, first week, second week, first month, I'm talking about when you know deep down in your heart that this is the person you want to spend the rest of your life with, and God has already confirmed that in your spirit, and he has confirmed that in your partner's spirit, then there's some things that we need to put on the table before we take this next step in saying I do or committing on that level.
I agree. And my list is, and I've had this personally happen to me, but I've also heard this with others as well, is one, do you want kids? You know, you shouldn't get into a year into the relationship and be like, somebody never really wanted the kids while your spouse has had these aspirations of building a family. Another one is that, do you have health issues? I need to know that because I need to know if your health issues are chronic, or will these health issues increase? And if so, what do I need to do? I need to know this information so I can better prepare myself to decide I can't do that. Another thing, like you said, were you accused of being a pedophile? If we're going to have kids, I need to know this, especially if we're going to have daughters, and not just so much daughters, even now young men. Mm-hmm. Felony. Do you have a felony? Because that lets me know the capacity of your work. Can you work? Will you be able to get regular jobs, or will you be that hustler? Do I have to depend on you being hustler, taking odd jobs?
Right.
Another thing is that can you love? Now, sometimes that could be a main issue, not with the person, because maybe that person came up in a household where love was not shown, or they were never told that they were loved or appreciated. And you need to know those type of things, because if you're looking for these affirmations from your spouse, and this person hasn't had the ability to love or doesn't know how to love, give me the opportunity to figure out whether I want to stay with you on that and help you through that or move on. Another thing is sex. Do you like a lot of it? Do you like a less of it? I mean, do you want to have it all the time or whatever, or you just don't want to? And sometimes that's a main issue, because there may have been some things that have been perpetrated on a person in the past, and they don't want to be touched a certain way, or they don't want to feel a certain type of way. So I need to know that. Don't wait until 4 years down the line to tell me these things. And now I'm like, wow, I've been trying to figure out what's wrong, and all along this has been happening, but you never failed. You failed to tell me this information. And I think sometimes, and we talked about it as well, that some people have issues with their insecurities, their fear in their past, but sometimes you got a lot of people who just can't tell the truth. Like my mom said, the truth is in you, that you're a liar, and the truth is not in you. And sometimes people just have a hard time telling the truth, and they develop this pattern of not being honest, where a white lie turns into a bigger lie, and now we have issues down the line. But I think these things, along with some others, I'm pretty sure whoever's listening to this podcast can be like, well, I got some other things to throw in it. But there's a lot. But those are some of the main things that need to be discussed upon the onset of the relationship.
I agree. And you touched on a lot of things. One of the things I do want to go back to what you said is when you said about, can you keep a job? I honestly feel like if you're in a position to where you can't keep a job, because we've seen this shift lately to where, well, it's not lately, it's been going on for a while, where you have the man as the breadwinner. And yes, again, we know the dynamics of relationships in life and jobs have changed drastically to the point to where some women make more money than men. To me, that doesn't matter in a relationship. What matters is, man, can you keep a job, and can you make the decisions and be in agreement with your wife to handle things the right way? Now you have people that have separate bank accounts, they have cell phones hidden. They're going into the stores, purchasing prepaid cell phones. And I'm like, man, come on now. Are we serious? So you got a phone hidden in your glove box or your trunk, out of the sight of your mate. And that right there is not integrity. So, It's a scripture that in Proverbs 10:19, and I'm reading out of the New Living Translation. It says, people with integrity walk safely, but those who follow crooked paths will slip and fall. And that alone is a deep scripture, because it tells you that eventually you're going to get caught. What do people normally say? What's done in the dark will come to light.
Yes.
You can't keep walking the way that you walk in a relationship, not having integrity or trying to hide things from people, because you lose the respect. And when you lose the respect, I will not trust you. Communicate things up front, be honest, and give that person a choice of whether they want to continue a relationship with you or not. I feel that I have a right to choose which direction I want to go in. But if you don't give me that choice, then how do I know that later on down the road where we're in this relationship and there's things that we have to make decisions on and I may not agree with, How do I know you're going to maintain your integrity and communicate with me, or if you're just going to go ahead and go behind my back and make decisions and then force me to comply with your decisions?
Exactly.
That's compromising integrity too. And I do have a question to ask you. So let's say that if you're deep in a relationship, and you asked me this question earlier, but if you're deep in a relationship and some of the things that you find out from your mate are just surface things. They're not things that are detrimental to the relationship. They're just things that, might touch the surface and might just kind of irritate you more so than cause damage to your marriage or your relationship. How do you handle those things, or what's your best resolution for handling those things?
Well, I want to take a step back. I think sometimes some things depend on the age and where you've been in your life as it pertains to relationships. Now, when I was in my 20s, early 30s, you told me certain things. I'd be like, okay, I could roll through that. Now I'm in my 40s, heading into my 50s. I pretty much need to know everything because my temperament has changed. Life has forged me to think and view things in a different way. I got two things that if I'm operating out of my flesh, then I might tend to go the opposite direction because I just can't take it. But if I'm operating in the spirit and moving in the spirit, and I have a relationship with the Lord, then it's going to require a lot of prayer, a great deal of prayer as far as the direction and the steps that I need to take as I continue on in this relationship. Because like one thing in my past, I found out that I couldn't trust the person that I was with, and we were into the relationship. But I tell people all the time, two things that's hard to get back. One is impossible to get back, but another thing is hard to get back. One is your virginity. Once you lose your virginity, you can never get that back. It's a wrap. It's done.
Right.
But the other thing is that once you lose a person's trust, that's almost equivalent to that, because it's hard. Because no matter in this relationship, no matter how much I tried to go around it, navigate through it, I just couldn't let it resonate in my mind and my spirit that I can't trust you. So that wound up leading to other things and opened the door to other things, because now I went from because I was struggling with this thing. So I went from operating in the spirit on it to now operating in my flesh. And that eventually led to the demise of the relationship. So I'm saying this, I'm never an advocate for divorce, and it happens. It is. Right. But at the same time, if you really want that relationship to work, then it's going to require a lot of prayer. Maybe some counseling, because now not only do you have to get this relationship right and in order, you now have to work on you, because now you're shattered. Now you're fragile,
right? Exactly.
Because now you're operating in this relationship, and now you got your head on a swivel, and now every move that's made, you're wondering, is this a realistic? Is this an authentic move? Because now you can't trust that person, and it causes so many other issues later on down the line. My wife says this. She says, "You're a fluke." If she finds out that you haven't been honest up front, she'll be like, "You're a fluke. You're not real." And one thing I can appreciate about my wife is that from the beginning, she let me know up front a lot of things, her temperament, her mood, and there was a couple other things that I'm not going to share, but she let me know up front. She said, "Reggie, this is how it is, A, B, and C." So then later on down the line, I'm looking crazy. She was like, "I don't know why you're looking crazy. I told you these things about me." And I'm like, "Yeah, you sure did." So after that, I regrouped, and I'm like, "Yeah." So now I'm in it. So I just need to keep going at it and keep working through it.
Okay. So I understand that too. My wife also shared things with me up front, and I shared things with her up front. And in doing so, it allowed each one of us the option to choose whether we wanted to be in a relationship with each other, because we know what's on the plate. And this is not something that we shared on day one. No, we had to develop a little bit and see where each other was, and let God confirm it in our spirit that this is the mate that he has for me. Now, I've made decisions in the past to where I partnered with somebody that God didn't confirm that. And those didn't turn out good. And it's like, I also had, like been in relationships where there wasn't honesty or integrity or anything going on, that that will make you stay in a relationship. To me, if your relationship has gotten to the point to where you feel insecure, then you need to communicate that to your mate, and you need to communicate why. And if your mate or your partner is ignoring your feelings, then that's not a good thing. They really need to acknowledge the things that you're going through and the things that you're feeling, because when they acknowledge the things that you're going through and the things that you're feeling, then you can work through it. But if I'm not going to respect the fact that you have some insecurities that I may have caused because I haven't been honest, then it's a real issue. And again, like you said, you were saying earlier that you may be broken and may need some counseling to help you get back together. I think counseling is great. I think it's effective. And I think it's underrated because so many people look at it and frown on it as people who get counseling are crazy or something like that. It's not necessarily that I'm crazy. I'm just broken. I got some areas in my life that I'm struggling with, and I need some help to regain my identity or recoup who I am. And so I agree completely that, we got to bring these things to the table with prayer and time with God, just so that we can get past, the whole onset of issues. And if you communicate these things up front, then you could prevent a lot of the destruction that happens in relationships when you start finding things out.
Awesome. And here's my thing on that too, just to kind of touch on this, and this will be something we'll talk about later on down the line. A lot of reasons why we don't seek help or seek counsel, it's like the Bible talks about counsel, is because certain communities, like the African American communities and some other communities, we just don't believe in going out to talk to people. That's how we were taught and raised. You were taught coming up that whatever happens in this house stays in this house. So and we could talk about this a long time. Back in the day, family kept secrets. Mm-hmm. For decades, and you didn't know until later on down the line. I didn't find out some things about certain family members until I was in my 30s, because they kept that, and they just decided we're going to keep this within the family dynamics, and then we're going to deal with it. But that's one reason why we don't talk about it, because that's been ingratiated into us that you don't take nothing outside of this house. So as you grow into an adult, that rule kind of applies as well, is that we're going to keep it here and not talk about it. But let me talk about this though. Here's an issue that I have, and I get this through counseling, or I'm talking to friends or whatever else like that. My issue is that I ask the question, well, did you know these things were going on while you guys were dating? And they say, yeah. And I'd be like, well, since you knew that, now that's on you. The onus now falls on you. If you knew going into this relationship that he or she couldn't hold a job, or he or she had these issues, that's now your responsibility. You make your bed, you lie in it. Now it's up to you. Don't come to me or go to anyone else complaining about it, because you knew about it from the beginning. So since you knew about it, as opposed to you didn't know about it, now that's basically up to you. I don't know how much more you want me to tell you, because you knew these things. And the reason why they went into this relationship thinking that is because we all, men and women, somewhere down on the inside of us, think that we can change a person. And we have to realize that we can't change anyone. My wife can't change me. I can't change her. Only God can make that change. That's
a whole nother conversation for a whole nother time. Man, I honestly believe that, man, if we would just communicate up front, and it goes back to our first couple of episodes about communication. If we communicate what's needed to be communicated up front, there's a lot that you can avoid happening in a relationship. A simple conversation can change the dynamics of your relationship just by being honest and maintaining your integrity. I was also reading in Proverbs 16:25 that it says there's a way that appears to be right, but in the end it leads to death. In that scripture alone, for those of you that feel like, man, maybe I shouldn't tell him or her this, maybe I should just keep it to myself, it always seems right. Yes. But you have to really evaluate that if this situation comes up, would it lead to the death of that relationship? Whew. And if it will, then you might as well prepare yourself in the beginning when you decide to keep this from the partner. Because if that's how it's going to end up, then don't waste that person's time. Don't take that person through all of these frustrations and headaches and spending time, and you're messing people's credit up. You're getting houses, you're getting cars, you're doing everything you're doing behind your back. And I honestly believe that every decision in a household needs to be made equally. We know that the man is the head of the household and he has the last say so, but hopefully he's being guided by God and not by his domineering mentality. That's a whole nother conversation. But what I'm saying is that you have to make sure that you both talk about every decision that needs to be made in the relationship and make these decisions together.
Yes,
and so with that being said, Reggie, I'll go ahead and let you, you look like you got something you want to add to that.
Oh, I was just going to say that you mentioned one key thing, time. Man, I'm 47 years old. Time is not necessarily on my side. So don't waste my time. I'm not 27 years old anymore where I think that the world is my oyster and I got so much time. I'm 47 now. Right. I don't have that time. So let's talk about it. And sometimes we have to know that sometimes being honest, sometimes the truth hurts.
It does.
Sometimes the truth hurts, and sometimes you have to brace yourself for the truth because everything is not going to be peachy keen. Everything is not going to come out the way that you think it's going to come out because that thing might come out about this person or they pass or whatever like that. That might sting and cut you, and you have to realize and find in yourself: do I love you that much to continue?
Right.
Give me the opportunity. Do I love you that much to continue? And if not, I like you and I love you, but this is just an area in my life that I'm not ready to move forward in and to deal with. So I guess as we move towards getting ready to close, Kenneth, since you wanted to stay in Proverbs, I got my own Proverbs coming from Proverbs 4:7, where it says wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And that's another topic in itself. But then it goes on to conclude, and in all thy getting, get understanding. Mm-hmm. When you're in that relationship, during that honeymoon period, where you're in that euphoric feeling and you're exciting because she says this or he has said that, he treats you, he touches me this way, he kisses me or whatever, like that. All the while, all that stuff is going on. You might want to try to put your emotions aside and try to get some understanding. Find out what's going on. Pay attention to cues. Mm-hmm. Because I say this to people all the time. If you're really paying attention, you're going to see some things in the beginning. And you'll be like, without words being said, I don't think that I can deal with that just by a person's actions. So as we get ready to close, I'm going to end with my own proverb, and that's coming from Proverbs 4:7. And the last thing is, before I send it over to you, Kenneth, when you get an opportunity, go onto our podcast. And in the blog section, post us up something, and it's called Putting Everything on the Table. Get a chance to check that out. Go ahead.
All right, so you can go ahead with your scripture in Proverbs, and then I have one that I'll close out in Corinthians.
Oh, that was my scripture in Proverbs.
Oh, okay, cool.
I know you had like 5 of them. I had one. So.
All right, so the last thing I want to say is remember to love at all times. Love heals all things. And in 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4, I'm going to read through it. Verse 8, it says, love is patient. Love is kind. Love, it does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrong. Love does not delight in the evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects. It always trusts. It always hopes. It always perseveres. Love never fails.
Yikes.
And that right there alone should close this whole show out. Thanks again for listening. This is When We Talk. Again, you can check out the blogs section of our website, whenwetalk.net. There is a blog that Reggie put up that talks about bring everything to the table. There's one that I have up that talks about communication. Please log on the website, like, subscribe. We're on Spotify, Apple iTunes, anywhere you can pretty much download podcasts. But again, remember, always communicate, talk about it, pray, get counseling, get help, get whatever you need to heal this relationship.
Amen. And I'll leave you with this. Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Lean not to thine own understanding, but in all of thy ways. That means your good and your bad. Acknowledge him, acknowledge God, and he shall direct your path. I always say this, keep your head up, keep God first, and keep it moving.